Hello, thank you for joining me, Diane from BohoStamper.com. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator sharing what I enjoy, stamping and paper crafting. Today I'm going to share with you a design that I was finally able to come up with a pattern for making a flip card. This is one of the first ones that I started out with. It's not too fancy, not too decorative, but it helped me to work on some of my measurements and decide that I really wasn't happy that the front flap covered my framelit. I did use the Artfully Aware stamp set, which is really nice if you have anyone that you want to send some encouraging messages to. So from this practice card, and these cards will fit into your regular card envelope. From this one, I came up with a better measured card where it doesn't hide my sentiment on the beginning or on the front of the card. You can use any color or designer series paper that you have handy. I've really come to like crushed Currie, and so when I was going through a lot of my designer series paper, I found an old stack of Wildflower Fields, and that paper matched some colors that I don't have cardstock for. Matched Blackberry Bliss, Hello Honey, and I thought that the Hello Honey was pretty close to crushed Currie, so that's the designer paper that I decided to go with. The last one that I worked on, I tried to make a nice border around the edge of the card using some of that paper. I really wasn't crazy about the paper once I got it on there. I felt it looked too much like wallpaper. So we're kind of putting two together here and hopefully coming up with a great one today. So the first thing that we did, I cut out my scoring tool and I cut a piece of crushed Currie at 7.5 by 4 1/4. I got those measurements from watching a video by Christy Butson, and they seem to be the most helpful measurements that I could apply towards this card. So thank you, Christy. We're gonna score on the top and the bottom of the card at 2 3/4 and 3 3/4. I only want to go down 1/2 inch because that's where my die is going to end up. So I just used a small piece of scrap paper with a little reminder note to myself because I knew I'd forget. Scored it down from 2 3/4 and 3 3/4. Because I didn't want to mess up, I just flipped the card over and did the same thing, scoring down 1/2 inch at 2 3/4 and 3 3/4. I found a piece of the designer paper that I really liked, cut it out at the same size, 7.5 by 4 1/4. But I'm not going to glue this down yet. And I'm going to just use some washi tape that I hope isn't too sticky, because the last time I used this, it tore my paper. So I've tried to take a lot of the stick off, but I want to hold the paper in place. I need to trim my paper. It looks like my design paper is a little bit bigger than the cardstock. I'm going to use the Framelits label collection to cut out my flip center. And I had originally numbered these starting from the largest size and working inward. And the 4th, 5th, and 6th lines are the ones that I'm going to use in this card. So those are pulled out. We're going to get our Big Shot. Try to get this where you can see it because this is kind of the important part. Using the largest of the dies. And because this framelit has a point, it makes it very easy to find out where the center of the die is if you're going to use a different design. And I'd really like to use the tea set. See if I can't make one of these with the teapot. We're going to put the center of your die at the 2 3/4 score line. And set the plate so that it only covers up to that first score mark. And run that through the Big Shot. Leaving everything intact, I'm going to turn the paper around. Line the top plate up to the 3 3/4 inch score line. And again, run it through. Now we can carefully take the tape off. Yay! No tearing. Now I pull the framelit out. Our card base is going to have a 1-inch strip here that we didn't cut through. But we don't really want that on the design paper. We want to be able to take the middle out. And so we line that framelit back up in the original scoring marks. This will be the piece that goes onto our card. And this extra piece, because it's double-sided design, you can set aside and use it for a different card. Maybe you want to use it for your contrast on this card. Set this out of the way. I've buried my paper cutter. So now what we have to do is take this 1-inch section and cut the design paper so that it'll be on each side, leaving the center separate so that when we fold our card, we have a little bit of a crease there and we're not going to worry about tearing it. So I'm going to cut my designer paper on the 2 3/4 and the 3 3/4 lines and save all my pieces. Okay, I have all of my designer paper cut. And for the centerpiece, so that it doesn't overlap the score line, I'm going to snip a little bit off of each side, and I actually found it was just easier to cut a little bit with paper snips rather than trying to line these tiny pieces up on the paper trimmer. And we're going to glue these all down with some snail adhesive, or whatever your favorite kind of adhesive is. It's kind of looking like this one may run out. We have more. We can trim around the outside of the card if we need to when we're all done. The most important part is to make sure that the design paper is on the outside of your cut area. I'm going to glue the small pieces down. Before I start folding this, I think I am going to go back to my paper trimmer and just trim off this little bit of an edge over here because I don't want it to look sloppy when I'm done. Much better. Now we can fold our card. This is going to be the front. So on your first two score lines, fold the card. I'll just use my bone folder to make sure it's nice and this will be the inside of your card. We're going to fold forward. I think I didn't have my die the whole way. Fold this over. It's a little rough right there, but that's all right because it's going to get covered up. So now you have your flip. Trim this a little more. Better. I'm going to use some crushed Currie and Tranquil Tide. Those are the colors that I cut my little extra pieces out of to stamp my sentiments on. I used the 5th and the 6th smaller sizes of my Framelits. And I'm going to use the Very Vintage stamp set, which was a host set in the 2018-2019 catalog. So you still have plenty of time to get a hold of your demonstrator and maybe have a workshop and host a Stampin' Up! Party and get the Very Vintage stamps. I really like these flowers. And this I thought would just really coordinate nice with doilies. So we have some more to play with. I use Tranquil Tide. And clean off my stamp so that my ink doesn't get all yucky on it. That'll be for the front of my card, inside of my card. I don't know if you guys have particular months that you have a ton of birthdays in, but March was it for me. I still have 2 more coming up here. That's why I was okay practicing with this card, because I needed a lot of birthday cards. All right. So for the inside of my card, again, this framelit set is really nice because you have points on the end of the cutout. Just makes it super easy to line things up. And on the front of our card, I'm just going to leave the crushed Currie background so that I have a little bit of a frame around my design paper. Line my points up on the first fold. And my dear friend. You can add whatever kind of embellishments you want. Maybe a couple little rhinestones, or you can leave it as plain as you like. We can add some little pearls. Maybe we'll add pearls to this one. The Take Your Pick tool is really handy at these teeny tiny little pearls. I also practiced a little bit. I thought maybe if I was in more of a hurry and I didn't want to try to cut paper so much, I have some several background stamps. Oh, let's see. About right there. There we go. That's kind of cute. I'm happy with that. Yeah. I did have several background stamps. I have a burlap background, and these are kind of cool if you're gonna, you can do contrasting colors. I like to do tone on tone a lot. They do take the big block, so this is a size F block. I used my crushed Currie. I made a mask out of a piece of scrap paper, the same die that I'm using in my card, and I just used a little rolled up piece of washi tape and stuck it on the back here so that I would leave my center plane to be able to stamp my sentiments. Then I took my stamp and just did some crushed Currie stamping on it with the burlap. That's kind of cute. It'll work. And then I can add my, actually I can use the leftover pieces that we had from our card that we just cut out. Let's do that one real quick. Again, you can use any kind of paper that you have. It's a great way actually to use up some of the scraps. This looks cute too. So while I was using some of my other scraps and cutting out the smaller size, I was cutting out the size 5 framelit out of a piece that I had cut larger. I actually made myself a little frame and I set those aside just in case I would ever need them. And lucky for me, will work nice on here. I'm just going to use my Tombow Chardonnay. There we go. Oh, I thought I had one open. Now my question, see, these cards just make you think and think and think. Because I really don't have any of the Tranquil Tide. Oh, I guess I do on there. Okay. I was going to say, what color do I want to use now? Because we have it out and I like it, we will just use Tranquil Tide again. I don't know if I have another little piece already cut that will fit the center. Just cut a for the front. Oh, I forgot to fold this. Get one more out of that. Probably not. And get another one out of here. with all of the different paper, my original one, and then the paper that I found in my Wildflower Fields. So I hope this video helped you if you enjoy making this kind of a card. If you use this video and come up with some designs, please visit my site, bohostamper.com, and share how your card turned out. I'd love to see it. Thanks. Have a great day.